Saenchai is a combat sports legend of the highest order. He holds every attribute you'd imagine a great fighter would possess: speed, power, ring IQ, technique. But the one thing that really sets him apart from the pack is that he is the ultimate trickster. Most fighters who like to set traps, like the MMA icon I recently covered, Anderson Silva, use defensive misdirection to set up seemingly magical knockouts. Saenchai, on the other hand, hides attacks within attacks, making opponents slip into uncertainty, then unconsciousness, almost simultaneously. And he's performed these ridiculous tactics throughout his entire illustrious career. He began his professional career at 8 years old, and over the next 30 plus years, won stadium and world titles across 8 weight classes. He has fought nearly 400 times, and has won the Thailand Fighter of the Year award more than once. What's even crazier, for someone with such an aggressive style, Saenchai has never been knocked out. Though Saenchai has retired from serious campaigning, he's found a way to age gracefully in the unforgiving world of combat sports. Nowadays, he travels around the world taking on lesser skilled, but vastly oversized opposition. In this way, the Muay Thai great can showcase his beautiful techniques against lesser competition without being a bully about it. So whether you want to better understand the techniques behind a true generational talent, or you want to incorporate some of these tactics and concepts into your own style, get ready to have your mind blown by one of the best to ever grace the stadium. The first OP trick that Saenchai used is called a directional feint. With these, he starts an attack, but only as a misdirection, morphing the strike into something entirely different as the opponent defends the wrong attack. For this, Saenchai commonly uses the question mark kick. He loads up what appears to be a teep before whipping his leg into a stunning roundhouse kick to the head. Saenchai's dexterity and offensive vocabulary is so high, he's one of the few Thai fighters to use the axe kick. Another directional feint. The opponent tries to block a head teep before they're suddenly struck from above. The strike going around and over their guard. The next item in the Saenchai Rolodex isn't something we've covered before, because it's not really a technique, but a psychological tactic. Regardless, some of the greatest fighters on the planet, like John Jones, use it regularly. At the end of an exchange, Saenchai will act totally relaxed, as if he's taking a break to reset. This lulls his opponent into a false sense of complacency. Only then does Saenchai leap into action, catching them totally unprepared. This tactic has been around for a very long time. In the Book of Five Rings, legendary duelist Miyamoto Musashi explains, "Many attitudes can be passed on. In single combat, you could win by relaxing your body and spirit, and then, catching on to the moment the enemy relaxes in turn, attack strongly and quickly, surprising them." Any great poker player would easily pick up on Saenchai's tell of adjusting his shorts before performing this tactic, or anyone familiar with a certain type of video game. But Saenchai's opponents must have different hobbies, or he would have far fewer KOs. Now let's look at how Saenchai exploits his opponent's defensive reactions. Saenchai gets his opponents worried about one kind of attack so that they react to it. When they do react, he'll take advantage of the new holes in their defense that reaction created. Sounds complicated, but the premise here is very simple. Basically, get them worried about one thing, then throw another thing. Saenchai will establish a lead leg roundhouse as a threat, very unusual from southpaw, but he'll combine it with frames to move his opponent out of position. Once he has them thinking about it, he'll chain directly into a jumping rear leg roundhouse. Probably the most taekwondo thing you'll ever see being used by a high-level Thai fighter. Another great pairing is to establish the lead teep as a threat. He'll then skip in and feint a teep to cover distance, lining him up for the actual strike. A variation of this pairing tactic is to establish a strike as a threat, but instead use it to transition into traps. Or holds. Opponents expect a punch, but what they get is their arm moved out of the way, which either clears way for Saenchai's offense or stops them from throwing what would be a likely counter. As for holds, one of Saenchai's most used and deadliest setups is to fake a cross, but instead turn that motion into a collar tie. Pulling opponents into a hard knee. The next tactic is not for the rhythmically challenged. I'm talking about Saenchai's use of offbeat timing and extra beat timing. Tons of fighters play with timing, but Saenchai is one of the few with the confidence to add on extra beats to his attack. He'll throw in additional footwork or feints. Even if he's already in range, he'll take a couple extra steps to get there, throwing in a superfluous bounce or step, anything to where they can't predict exactly when the strike will come. He'll also play with the same concept using the Ali shuffle, but it's even more dangerous in Muay Thai than in boxing, because kicks are in the mix. Saenchai will even add extra beats mid-combination, stepping back to bounce at mid-range. This not only disrupts his opponent's defensive rhythm, it gives Saenchai the time and space he needs to read openings, defend against attacks, or change angles. If his opponent tries to use the extra breathing room to leap in with strikes of his own, they're basically stepping on a rake. Saenchai will stop short at just the right distance to run them into an attack. There's so much more I could talk about with Saenchai. I've left a pinned comment below with a more basic blueprint of the core mechanics of his offense, if anyone's interested. But I feel what I've highlighted in this video really is what makes him so special. The extra flair and advanced tactics he uses to turn a fight into a spectacle. A display of brilliance that pays tribute to the beauty of both Muay Thai and martial arts as a whole. If you'd like to learn more, check out my technique books, all over 4.5 stars on Amazon. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.